Hi, everybody, and welcome to Lost Through the Rabbit Hole. I'm Josh. Tonight's special guest is King Cash, or Cassius. You might know him from TikTok. He's got a ton of experiences that he's going to share with us tonight, from astral projection to extraterrestrial, all good stuff. That being said, why don't you take it away, Cash?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm actually really excited to talk about these experiences because there's so much that I can't wait to share with the world, and people have no idea what is coming. And I've just to be in the beginning of it is amazing to me, and I'm just so thankful to be able to be part of this grand rising that's actually happening on the planet. So, thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, no problem. It's awesome to have you on. What got you started in all this?
Oh, that's okay. That's actually a very bold question. Okay, so I actually started getting into all this conscious stuff when I was in high school. So I remember in grade 8, I started getting into astral projection and all that. I just knew it was real, but I didn't know how I knew it was real. So I was just looking into it, and it wasn't very popular yet. So I was just dabbling into it, and I was still Christian. And then as the days started going by and the years started going, I started to tap into my psychic abilities without knowing I was. So I was an empath, but I didn't understand what that was, and I didn't understand what I was doing. So I could feel people's emotions around me. I could understand almost everything about someone just being in their aura. And I never knew how I knew. Like I could just tell someone was having a rough time at home because of their parents or whatever. And I would tell them, like, I know this. And they're like, how do you know? How do you know? And I'm like, because I just know, like, I don't know how. So I was itching my head all of high school. And then I would start to get small experiences where I was just being very correct with my abilities, and like I could just tell things. And then my first experience actually with astral projection, I was sleeping, and my guides still won't let me astral project consciously because I have to focus in the physical. So they're like, no, you can't be jumping around yet. So I was like, okay. But at that moment, I didn't get that. So I didn't understand. And I wasn't talking with my guides yet. So at one point, I remember I went to sleep and I kept telling my guides, like, I want an experience. I want an experience. And I remember I was in my room and it was in the middle of the night, and I heard this humming noise above my room. And it sounded very sci-fi, it just sounded like a humming noise, like a helicopter or like a plane flying over, but it was like right over my room. So I was like, whoa, what the hell is that? So I look out the window and I went like this, and I look, and there was like I could see something metallic above my room. So I was like, what the hell? So of course I ran outside and I ran to the back door. I ran out and I look up above my room, and there was legit a triangular UFO above my room. And
Amazing.
I was baffled because in this moment, I'm standing there and I'm like, this is real. So I looked and I'm like, whoa, I'm seeing a UFO in real life. Like, this is not a dream or nothing. And I was so baffled, and the light was shining on me. It was so bright, I was going like this. And I was like, yo, what the hell? And then all of a sudden I woke up in my bed. And I was like, that wasn't real. Like I could feel like it was so bright. My eyes were burning, the wind was blowing on me. There was no way it wasn't real. So after I realized it had to have been either an astral projection or it was actually real, like they actually took me aboard the ship, and then they wiped my memory of what was happening on the ship and just downloaded what I needed. So it was either like my star family or the Galactic Federation, most likely, because I work with them now. But that was my first ever experience that blew my mind because I was like, that was obviously not
Wow.
a dream. It was something more.
I think you're probably taken, tell you the truth.
And yeah, for sure. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. 'Cause it was so real. The wind was blowing. There was no way. And I had way more dreams of like people visiting me or like beings coming and working on me. So I knew, and I didn't fully understand what that was yet until only recently. Actually, I'm getting a lot of information now just talking about it because I'm at the process now of working with the Galactic Federation. So they send me on assignments or they tell me things in my dreams and then they come true. Like they're always right. So there's no way. Like I went through a whole year of saying this is not real. Like these assignments they're sending me on are not real. But they are. Like there's no way. Like for example, I kept getting dreams about this one kid that I used to co-op in school. And I kept getting dreams like his life is going to change. There's going to be a lot of experiences for him. And so I was like, okay, right? Like we're going to see. And then next thing you know, I told the kid, I was like, okay, I keep being told. I had to tell him because they were like, tell him, tell him. So I was like, all right. So I told him, I said, your life is going to change. You're going to have, you're not going to be like hanging out with the friends you used to. You're just going to be changing a lot. So get ready for that. And I gave him a lot of messages that his guides were telling me. And he goes, okay, thank you. He believed, but didn't fully. And then the next day he tells me, "Bro, I got this new job. Is this part of it?" And I asked the foundation and I asked like the energy. I was like, "Is it?" And they're like, "Nah, there's more." So I told him, I'm like, "Nah, this is just the beginning." And he's like, "Okay, thank you." And I told him, "Make sure you prepare because you're probably gonna be alone and me and you probably gonna be hanging out more." And he's like, "Okay, thank you." Next day he texts me, bro, and he's cussing. He's like, "Bro, you're right. I'm done with these effing kids. Like, I'm just done. I'm gonna be alone now." And I'm like, "What happened? What happened?" He's like, "My friends did this. They allowed some guy to steal my bike. Like, they're so fake." And he's like, "Yeah, you were so right about everything you said." So I was like, "Whoa, this is for real, for real." And next thing you know, we end up hanging out because we're like business partners now, and everything else they told me, like his little brother is being attacked by some spirit. And I got warned about it before. They were like, you have to protect him. So I said, okay, I will. Then he texts me and he's like, yo, um, there's some like spirit trying to attack me. He knows nothing about spirits. He doesn't believe this stuff. But he's like, something tried to take over my body, and something weird is happening in my room all the time. And I was like, okay, this is what they were warning me about. And the Federation is like, you have to start believing because we're trying to help you help people. So I was like, okay. So from then on, things like that are happening all the time, especially when I go live. Like they'll tell me go live, and all people's guides will start coming through my spirit portal, which is my big mirror that's right beside me. And they come through and they fill my room and they like want me to give people in the live messages. So it's getting very in depth now, and it's at the point where they're making me believe because my mind is so analytical. I was like, this is not. I can't stress that enough to people. How I was like, this is not real. But now they're like, you have to believe because of all of this. So no matter what, I'm like, hey, this is for real now.
I can totally relate to that too. When we do investigations back in the
Hmm.
day, and you would have an experience, it's the first thing your mind tells you is your, your brain is telling. It's just telling me that because I want that to happen. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to discern, but once you get past it, you're way more open, and a lot more happens.
It's so true, man. Like I had no idea this was all gonna happen for me. And so now that I'm getting past life memories, when I first got it, I didn't know what was going on. So I had a past life memory of the Lyra Draconian Wars, which for people that don't know much about that, is an ancient race of beings that are like the ancestors of all the other beings in our galaxy. And there was a war between them and the Draconians, and it was one of the most like millions of people died. It was the most catastrophic event still in galactic history. And I was actually a royal at that time. I was a princess. So I remember what it was like living in Lyra, parts of it only parts of it. And I remember when the Draconians came. And when I first got this memory, I was having a panic attack. Like I was sitting in my bed and I was like, what am I seeing? Like, what is this? And I was freaking out. And then I had to text my mentor and I said, yo, I saw this, this, and this. Can you tell me what I'm seeing? Because my analytical mind is like, this is an imagination or something. But it was emotional. Like I was there. It's like when you look at a memory in your mind and you feel the emotion and everything. It was just like that. But I was in deep pain from it. And I remember running and seeing these reptile beings that looked like raptor heads and crocodile heads eating people, and they were like eating my family in front
Terrifying.
of me. It was you have no idea. And I texted her and I said, "What the hell am I seeing? I'm freaking out. I I feel like this could be a past life memory, but I've never had experiences with that joint. I need assistance in knowing what this is." And she told me, "Yeah, you were in the Lyra Draconian Wars, man. Like you're a princess and you've been a royal. And now that is also why you have all these spiritual attacks happening to you, which is a whole other thing." But she was like, "Yeah, get ready, you're gonna be getting a lot more." And now I'm at the process of seeing even more. Like now I see, like, if you guys have ever understood the Zero Suit Samus story, that is basically like what my past lives were like. So after Lyra was destroyed, I even remember hearing me saying to people, I kept hearing in my mind, "Never again, never again. We'll never forget who we are." And I was like, "Who is saying this? Like, what is that?" And she told me, she's like,
Mhm.
"You were saying that. You were saying that to your people before you guys dispersed in the galaxy." And I'm like, "This all feels so right. It just feels so real." And it just explains all the emotions that I've always felt, especially always feeling like I'm a royalty, but I thought it was maybe my bloodline, like, before slavery in Africa. So I was like, "Okay, maybe it's that." But all my life, I knew I was royalty, and I knew that I always felt like I didn't have a home, and here felt like a jail. So I always felt like I was in jail, and I always had this fear as well of becoming a bad or dark person or losing who I am. And now that I'm getting all these past life memories and hearing all of this and seeing all this, it explains why I've always felt this way my whole life. So people may not believe when I tell them this story, but I'm like, I honestly, I don't need you to believe. Like, I know it's real, and my analytical mind's done all the trying to debunk it, and I can't now. So it's very deep.
Cassius, I believe you 100%. Do you also believe that the media also kind of gives us little dribbles of past events? Honestly, I think that war is Thundercats. If you're familiar with that show from back in the day, I don't know how much younger you are than me, but
Ooh,
cat
actually,
like
I've
being
heard that name before, but never watched it.
yeah, it's about a cat-like beings who have their own planet, fighting raptor-like beings that are trying to take over them, and their king is Lionel, who wields a magical sword that can change sizes and colors.
Oh my god, bro, I'm looking at it right now. I'm about to watch this. Whoa, that's crazy. You know what? I'm gonna watch this and I'm gonna make a video about this or something. Whoa. Thanks for telling me that. Damn, for you guys that want to see this. Whoa, he's so right. I see the sword and everything. I see exactly what you're talking about. Thanks. I'm gonna watch that later. Thank you. I want you guys to know that, like, if you guys have watched the Zero Suit Samus story or heard about it, I remember. So I'm gonna watch this because I feel like that's just depicting Lyra for sure. So whether I haven't even watched it yet, and I know for sure, and I'm gonna be talking to my mentor today. So I'm gonna mention that with her. Thank you for that. But I actually remember what it was like after as well, which I looked like this female, like I'll just show it, I'll put it up to the screen quick. I looked like this blonde female woman, and I never like when I saw this, I was like, that's not me, right? Like I'm black. Like why did I that doesn't make any sense. But it actually does make sense because when I looked at the body and I saw the vision of that person in my head, I was like, that's me. Like, that is for sure me. But of course, my mind's like, "Nah, nah," but I feel it. And then my mentor told me, "Yeah, that is you, but your body is in homeostasis right now. So after you'll be able to go back." And she's saying all this, and I asked the ether, I'm like, "Is this true?" And they're like, "Yeah." Like, I feel like the yes from my intuition. And I just, no matter what, now I miss my body a lot because that's one of my, like, favorite, that's how my soul likes to appear the most. And I got also visions of what else I looked like. Like, I looked like this gray being. I looked like this really cute gray being, and it had like big eyes, and it like had really bright energy, like it was like fifth or sixth dimensional. And I remember I found this out in a meditation because I saw this vision, and I was like, what who is this? Like who are you showing me right now? And I heard a big voice in my head go, it's you. And it's funny because the the person felt very familiar. So I was like, is this like it felt like I was looking at myself, but I was like, that doesn't make any sense. In that moment, this was a few years ago, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And when they said it's you, and then I got sucked out, I was like, whoa, that was me. So from then on, that was my first ever past life experience. But this is what I looked like in my past life. This is the body that's apparently in homeostasis.
Oh wow.
So I look like this beautiful blonde woman, which is just a Zero Suit Samus. And I looked at the Zero Suit Samus story, and which she basically is like this. So it's um like this woman that travels the galaxy, like a warrior woman, and
You're
she
talking
travels
about
the
from
galaxy.
Metroid Prime?
Exactly. So I was just like that. If the Zero Suit Samus story is not based off of me, it is very similar because all the visions I see, it looks exactly like the Metroid story. So I'm like,
Wow.
I don't want to be like, oh, that's me, but I also can't help but think, was that story based off of me? Because now all these people come to me and they talk about how powerful everybody, even my family, talks about how powerful my energy is and how I'm like a royal warrior and stuff like that, how my soul is like that. So everybody around me, especially psychic people, come up to me and they're like, yo, like they know things about me and they tell me they're like, yo, are you a secret agent? And now I work like a secret agent almost. And they'll text me and they're like, are you a secret agent that works for the Galactic Federation? And I'm like, how do they know I work for the Galactic Federation? Right. So right away they know. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna tell them, right? So I'm like, yeah, I do. Obviously, you're very intuitive to know this. And they're like, yeah, I see a lot of your past lives and stuff like that. Super cool and whatever. And they talk about how powerful I am and how much they have to protect me. And I'm like, whoa. So obviously people are seeing it's I always feel like people know more about me than I know about myself. So I'm always in a self-discovery. Even now, I'm gonna probably look back at this podcast and be like, I had no idea who I was then. Like it's crazy.
That's so awesome though to be like you're learning something new every day. You're unlocking something new.
Yeah, it's super fun, but when you have that, especially since from young, I was always very what they call hyper aware or like super hyper aware, and that's what the science calls it. And I was just aware of my like existence more than most people. So I was like, how come I'm seeing out my eyes and talking out my mouth and like this table is just like another version of me and stuff like that. My parents were like, go play, like I don't know what you're talking about. And I still talk about that with my mom now because she's like, that was a gift that you were given because you're meant to dig within yourself and you have this understanding of the universe that most people don't have, which explains why I've always questioned myself, who I am, why I'm so different, and stuff like that. So it's really fun and adventurous, but also very emotional because you don't understand. When you have no idea who you are, you're like, what am I? What is this world? Like, I understand the world now. Like, I could feel the planet and the people on it, and I feel the cosmos and I understand. I feel my soul in my body, and I sound like a crazy person, but and I used to hear people talk like this online, and I was like, "Whoa, they're really cool. I want to get there." But now that I'm here, I'm like, "This is nothing like what I thought." Like when you could feel the whole planet, and you could feel the past, present, and future, and you could feel like literally everything around you all at once. You have to take time to adapt and you have to take a lot of time alone because when you're around human beings and you look at them, you're like, oh, like humans are so primitive, right? Like they have no idea what's going on. And when I'm talking with the Federation, they're like, don't worry about them yet. Like they're gonna get there soon. They're gonna see us all soon. So I'm like, okay, but we have a lot of growth to do on this planet, and having abilities like that is cool, but very hard.
Absolutely. I can relate too. I mean, I have so many friends that I'm like, hey, check out my show. And they're like, cool.
Yeah, they have no idea. But yeah, I honestly, people will not believe you. They have struggles to believe you until they have experiences for themselves. It's just like some of the people that the Federation sent me on assignments to protect or to help with something. I'm like I'm like, "Okay, we'll see what happens," because they'll give me brief ideas of what's gonna happen, but they won't tell me exactly. So I'm like, "Alright." And then that kid or that person that they were warning me about or saying something about ends up coming to me and saying, "This is happening to me," or I like something happens and I end up helping them with something that the Federation was warning me about. So they're always right. And these people, a lot of them that the Federation's warning me to protect or help, they're like, "Okay, you're assigned to this person." I'm like, "Okay, I got it." But that person isn't conscious or spiritual. They don't believe that stuff. So I'm like, "All right, well, I don't know how I'm gonna help them if they don't believe." But they're like, "Don't worry, they're gonna believe what the experiences they have." And then the
Mm,
person told me about a reptile being that's attacking them in their sleep, or like this spirit is attacking them and they're like, "I don't believe in spirits." But there's something I could see this like woman in my room and she's like yelling at me and stuff. And now they believe. So it's going way beyond you and me and what's happening on this planet. This is very big. And like this astral war they talk about is for real, for real. And there's so much going on that people do not understand. But even uh, religious people talk about it. Religious people like Christians, a bunch of Christian priests are talking about this war between the angels and the demons that's happening in the energetic realm. But really they're religifying it, but it's just high vibrational beings fighting lower vibrational beings. That's
hmm
really all it is. So we religify things to explain it for like civilization, but really it's grander universal aspects that people don't understand and that we're all going to understand soon.
Interesting.
Yeah,
How
we just got
exactly did you end up involved in the Astro War, if you don't mind sharing with us?
um shoot. I have all these stories in my mind. I'm like, "Hey, where should I start?" So, I started with opening up a spirit portal in my room. So, this big mirror that is in my room, I allowed it to become this is when I was practicing a little bit with witchcraft. I allowed it to become a portal. And I was like, "Okay, well, let's see how this goes, right? We're gonna practice and see if this portal stuff is for real." So I started doing whatever, like just saging it and making it a portal. And the one night I went to sleep, and then this being with like long fingers, it was like a complete shadow being. It had red eyes and long ass fingers, and it was like looking at me, but it was like in my dream realm, and it was peeking around the corner like this, and it was like trying to scare me. So, but I'm intuitive like that. I was like, obviously you're jumping in my mind space. I was like, what are you doing? I looked at him, I was like, what are you doing? And it realized that it wasn't scaring me. And then it transitioned the whole dream into one of my fears. So it transitioned my fear into one of my fears is having to restart high school again, which is not a fear anymore, but it was then. So I was so afraid of like having to redo school that when, the dream transitioned to that, I was like, "Oh my god, I have to redo school again," but I said, "You know what? If I'm gonna redo it, I'm gonna redo it better this time. I'm gonna do it better with all the knowledge I have now." And this dark being got mad, and then it transitioned the dream again and acted like I woke up. So, in this dream, I was laying in my bed, but this dark being with long fingers, again, the same being, was, like, standing over me, like, in my bed, and I looked at it and I was like, "What are you doing? Go away, bro." I said that, I was like, "Go away," and then I literally this time I woke up, and I actually woke up this time, so it tried to make a false awakening to scare me more, but I was like, "It's not gonna happen." So then when I actually woke up, I I was like, "Oh, it was just a dream. It was just a dream." But I heard footsteps walk from the side of my bed and walk to my mirror and walk into it. and then it was gone. And I could feel the energy though, like I could feel that energy like someone was standing there and they walked with the footsteps walking to my mirror and walked through the mirror. And I was like, whoa. But I
Damn.
didn't have the knowledge I have now. So I was just like, oh, that was kind of weird. That's just something I put on my little list, right? And now I understand it was a dark being that came through the portal and it was just looking for food, which it was just looking for fear. So it was pretty weak, but it was a weak spirit that was looking for weaker people to feed off of. So it realized it wasn't going to get me, so it just kissed its teeth and then walked out. And it was like, all right, new person I got to find.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that was my first experience. Now I have to make sure that portal only allows higher vibrational beings in. But from then now, people's guides now come through my mirror, and they ask me to help a person or whatever, and then I go and help them. I remember the one night, actually, I have to make a YouTube video about this. Um, this is when I started getting, this was only like last week, I was getting my psychic abilities were strengthening. And I went home, and for some reason, after I showered and everything, I was in my bed. And usually I listen to music before bed and just kind of meditate. And for some reason, I was scared though. I was like, "Oh, I actually have to write this down because I have to ask my mentor about that because I want to see." Because every time I ask her, she's like, "You're always right." Like, I don't know why you have to ask me, but I, of course, need that analytical clarification. But I was like laying in my bed and I was scared. I don't know why. And I'm never scared of my mirror. But if people's pets come in my room, they always look in the mirror and they're like, nope. And then they run away or something like so. Everybody sees my mirror as very powerful, and I feel it's very powerful. Like it feels like a door. Like when I close my eyes, if I were to close my eyes and try to walk out into the like kitchen, I would mistake my mirror for a door. So it's that powerful energetically. So I was like, okay, this is the portal strengthening. And I was laying in my bed, um, and all of a sudden, I'm scared. Like I was literally under the covers like this, listening to music, and I had to have one of my headphones off because I was scared. And I was looking around, and I was like, okay, obviously something energetic is going on in my room if I'm fearful like this, because I'm never fearful like that. So I'm looking around, and it got to the point where I didn't even want to get out my bed. It felt like I was a kid again. I was like, whoa. And I could see orbs flying around my room. I could see spirit orbs, like different colors. Um, my my guard, which is like he's like a royal guard that's always with me. He's always on my left side, which all my followers see all the time. They're like, "Who's that standing beside you?" I'm like, "Who?" At the beginning, I was like, "Who are you talking about?" Right? But now I know. He's like a red orb, and then all these other like higher vibrational beings that come in my room are blue. But they were flying around my room, so I was like, "Okay, mate, I'm not scared of these beings because they're always here. So why am I scared?" And I realized they're flying around, and I felt this like dark presence in my room. It was like right at the pathway of the portal, which is like right here. And I felt this presence, like it was dark. And so I was like, ooh, maybe this is it. But then I went to sleep, and then I woke up, and then I got the downloaded information of what happened that night. And it was a dark being who slipped through the portal somehow slipped through, and these beings were coming in my room and like, fighting it. So they literally had weapons, and they were fighting this guy, flying around my room, fighting this dark being and telling it to get out of my room. And I also have like a guardian who protects the portal. And so he's always standing at the portal, making sure no dark beings come through. But this one was so powerful that he needed backup. So all these other explains why I was seeing all the orbs and stuff like that, and why I was scared. And so I realized then that like I'm very powerful, and I understand that, and everybody always tells me this. But at that moment, whatever being this was way out of my ball game. Like I wouldn't be able to do it myself. So all these beings came to fight it, and it probably lasted 3 or 4 hours. They were fighting in my room, and when I woke up, it was done. But energetically, my room was like a war zone. So I was tired, and I was just like, I have to clean up. So energetically, I had to clean up everything. But that was one experience that I'm still like, damn, what? Because I get all this information like, okay, there was a war in my room, but what really happened that night? I need more information, which I'm going to ask my mentor later. But the astral war stuff goes beyond just like few people. Like it's everywhere. We're in the middle of a war zone. So sometimes I go out and I'll see like spirits attached to people, but there's nothing much I could do. Like I'll do what I can. If I'm assigned to help someone, I'll help them, or like maybe I go to a shop and then I talk with someone and then I help them with something and then like their energy raises. So like that'll be like a little assignment I had that day. But most of the time I see these dark people or dark beings everywhere and I'm like, there's not much I could do because I can't help everyone. So we're in the middle of a war zone, but yeah, it's very complex what is happening. And the fact people don't believe, even though people feel it, they know intuitively it's real, but again, their minds need proof. So it's not like there's not much we could do unless they have experiences
Hmm.
themselves.
There's so many people that aren't awake.
I know,
There's.
man.
Do
For
you ever
real.
go live on TikTok?
I do. I go live all the time. I love going live. And now it's at the point now where people's guides, like literally their guides come through my mirror and there's like 20 surrounding me and they're watching my lives. Like they're saying it like this and
That's
they're
awesome.
happy. And they're like, okay, tell this guy this. And then I'm like, okay. I'm like, is there a guy named Lucas? Lucas, you got this message. And he's like, oh my God, how do you know that? I'm like, because your guide is right behind me saying to tell his ass. So like, right. So now I'm helping people believe more as well. And I love working with people's guides, especially the Federation. Like even in my room now, like a bunch of them like to watch me just do what I do. And I love their energy there.
I was gonna say because I don't know when I go live, I've noticed there's been a like huge incline in trolls lately.
Bro, I don't have time for trolls, honestly. I just get my moderators. I'm like, just mute them. Like, because I want them to be here and listen. So I'm like, just mute them. And if they get bad, just block them. But yeah, I don't have time for these fools.
A lot of the religious ones too, I get. But so far, I've had good experiences with it. When the last show we did not, where they were just attacking like crazy. But recently, when I've been doing Lost Through the Rabbit Hole live, I'm just like, yeah. They're like, well, Jesus loves you. And I'm like, well, thank you. And then they're like, oh. And then I start talking. I was like, do you ever think this thing experienced in the Bible is similar to an UFO? And they're like, well, I never thought of it that way.
Hmm.
So it's
There's
cool
so
that I'm
much of
like,
those. There's so much of that information in the Bibles too. Like they show UFOs like Christian art and stuff like that. And people are like,
mm-hmm.
oh, don't look at that. But they don't show it as much because again, the people are gonna know. So that's the funny part is when you give them proof from scriptures and stuff like that, and their minds are like, ooh, it could be right, but nah, I don't want to believe that.
Right.
So yeah, it's so interesting.
I was watching one of your videos earlier, and you said you had an experience with a reptilian. Um, did you talk about that with us at all?
Yeah. So this being, I didn't fully believe in reptilians. Like I know they're real, but I just don't know how much is truth. So at this moment, at that time, I was like, okay, I understand they're real, but I don't fully know. So my mentor told me, the government's watching both of us. Remember that. And just remember that reptilians are going to start coming for you now. They're going to pretend to be your friend and you're going to know they're reptilian, right? You're going to know, but just know they're going to come for you. And I was like, okay, I believe you. I understand. But then one day, this one guy messaged me on this app, which is like a friend app where you meet people and it's like safe meeting. And so I met this one guy right away. It's like his energy showed a reptilian. So I knew right away that he was a reptilian, but my analytical mind was like, how about let's hang out with him and see what happens? Like, see, you just need more evidence. So I was like, okay, well, is it gonna be safe? And they're like, yeah, like just go. Like I felt energetically, intuitively. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be safe. So I was like, okay, no way am I gonna get killed, but something may happen that will make me believe. I messaged my mentor. I said, hey, I think a reptilian is coming for me or whatever. I met one. Do you give me any like information so I know more about reptilians and stuff like that. She read it and didn't answer. So I was like, okay, interesting. So I went out and hung out with this guy. And right when I got in his car, which he's a safe person, everybody's like, why did you just go hang out with random people? No, like these are safe. Like we're in public, we go somewhere and whatever. Like we just went to Tim Hortons. And so got in his car. And I brought, of course, protection crystals. I knew he wasn't going to hurt me physically, but energetically, I knew something was going to happen. So he's a really nice guy. But right when I walked in the car, he stunk. Like he stunk so bad. And right away, if you talk or listen to any government workers or talk to shamans, they always say reptilians smell horrible. Everybody notes that. So right when I walked in, I was like, okay, that's, checkbox one. And so I sat down, we hung out, and he was very fascinated and interested in me. All he wanted to do was talk about me, me, me. And he had this energy of mystery. Like there was something he was hiding, and he was like low-key plotting against me. So energetically, I was like, okay, check box two, because right away my intuition was like, watch out for this guy. But I was like, okay, I know he's a reptilian, right? So next thing you know, we hang out and we're just talking, and he was just fascinated. He wanted to give me stuff, and he wanted to give me all this, and he's like looking at me like fascinated, right? He's like, oh yeah, yeah. I was like, this guy's kind of weird, but his eyes were weird as hell too. Like I cannot explain how weird his eyes were. And I would look at them and I'm just like, reptilian, reptilian. And but I was like, I need more proof, bro. Like I have all these check boxes, but let's just see what happens. So he drops me home, and I felt this like energetic like leech on me. Like it felt like a leech was on my back. And so I was like, whoa, his energy is lingering on me. And his smell coated me. So I was like, I've never come across someone where the smell is on you. And I was like, this is disgusting. I smell horrible. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be around people just yet. Let me go to the track, do a quick workout, and then shower. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to do that. I felt very weird, horrible. And I go to the track, I'm doing my runs, and then my intestines felt really horrible. Like I felt like I was like literally gonna shit myself, right? And I was running, and then I felt like a little bit of discharge, but I was like, one of my worst fears is shitting myself, right? And I've never done that in my damn life. So I was like, there's no way. So I'm feeling discharged, but I'm like, there's no way, bro. There's no way. So I I was like, I ran around the track. Someone was like, "Ooh, why don't you run around town?" But I was like, "Nah, let's just go home and we'll be fine." I get home and doo doo all up and down me, right? And I was wearing white too, so you could see like the poo like stain. And I was like, if I ran around town, bro, like I dodged the bullet, right?
Right.
I was disgusted. I was like, that's never happened in my life, but okay. So I showered. I still couldn't get a smell off. I was scrubbing
Ugh.
and I couldn't get it off. And then I was like, I had an assignment actually at the skate park. So I was like, okay, well, let me go get ready. Getting ready. And I kept feeling very unconfident. So I was just, something kept saying, stay home, stay home. But I was like, why am I going to stay home? Like, I have work to do. So I got dressed and I went out, and I felt very unconfident. But I'm like, okay, after I do a little bit of skateboarding, I'll go the long way. And then all the skateboarding, it'll pick up. So just as I walk outside, I almost got hit by a car instantly. Like it was so close. Like I literally almost died that day. And I was like, whoa. And everything felt so dark. Energetically, the world just felt dark. And so I was like, there's something weird going on. And I was thinking, oh, maybe he put like a curse on me or something. I don't know. But we'll see what else happens. So I was already kind of scared. I was like, damn, I almost died. And I just feel so unconfident. So I kept skateboarding, skateboarding. Then I get on the main street, and then there's a bunch of people. Like there's a bunch of these teenagers, 20 of them walking. And I'm skateboarding, and instantly the skateboard stops, and I went flying off, and I like skid up myself in front on a main road in front of tons of people. And it was like my confidence was being tested all day so far. And I noticed that right away. I was like, "Why is my confidence being tested?" And so I look around, I was like, "Damn, that hurt." And the people in the cars were like, "Damn!" And it was like, "Yo!" And I was like, I looked around, I was like, I looked at the one guy flipping a sign, and I said, "Did you see that?" And he's like, "No." And I said, "Good." And I got up, and then I kept going. So I like laughed it off, made it a joke. As I get to as I get closer to the skate park, I'm at a point where the skate park's like just like a minute skateboard away. Like you look down the street and you see it at the end. So I looked at it and I kept hearing in my head, "Don't go. Well, look at you. Look what happened all day today. You're gonna go to the skate park now?" I was like, mm, like I was sitting there, my confidence was being tested, and I realized that. But I was like, this doesn't feel like it's the Federation. Why would the Federation talk to me like that? Like I was sent on this assignment. So I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna go. And this was one of the hardest things to do. I was like, I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna have a good time. And if things are horrible at the skate park, I'll just go home. So I went there, and even though as I got closer, it was like, go home, go home. Like in my head, it was like getting louder. It was like, go home, go home, go home. And it was scaring me, but I was like, I don't care. I'm going to the skate park. I get there, and overall, I had a really fun time. So the energy and the smell washed off of me after a bit, and I felt good. I go home, and then I noticed that that energetic leech that felt like it was on me was gone. So I was like, okay, well, whatever was happening, it's gone now. Obviously, my vibration raised so high that it was off of me. I asked my mentor, or I posted on my story and whatever about it and on TikTok. And she goes, now you see why I didn't answer you, because the Federation told me that you're going to have an experience with a reptilian that would make you believe fully. She said, now you better believe me. And I was like, yo, I like that was just like the final straw, like the last check box. So I was like, okay, this is for real, for real. And I said, I had to ask her, I was like, what did he put on me? Was it like a curse or something? Because I almost died. I almost got hit by a car. I dooed myself. All of this, like it was just so much weird stuff. And she said it wasn't a curse, but it was an energetic monitoring device. So it was essentially like an astral AI that he placed on me to monitor my energy. And whenever it would go higher, you would trigger something that would make it go lower. So my confidence was being tested. Like when I doodled myself, that was testing my confidence because I felt good working out. So we brought it down. Got home, getting dressed. I felt good. I love dressing nice. And then he brought it down. And then I was like, well, I'm just gonna go out. Almost got hit by the car, then falling on my skateboard. Like every time I noticed, she was right because anytime my energy went like this, something would happen and bring it down. So I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. End of the day, I just noticed that it was off of me. And I said, so what happened? She's like, yeah, you basically shook it off with your vibration. So that explained everything. It made sense. And she's like, you have to understand that these beings will come for you because of who you are and what you do. You work for the Federation, and you're basically, like she said, an elite soul. So you are like, because you're royalty of Lyra. You're the princess of Lyra. So they're gonna come for you. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I feel the fire in me, like this, not hate, but like something against those like reptilians. Like
Mhm.
I know like people, especially when I come across reptilians in person or like anywhere, I know the reptilian, but I it's like I can't, there's not much I could do. I just keep myself away from them.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. And if I have to
Wow,
fight
this is
in a way, then I will in a way as well. Like um if they like if I see one in person, I remember this was one time I actually went out to go eat with my family. And this is after, and this tattoo I got actually is a symbol from the Galactic Federation. So when intuitive people see it, they know that what I do. So we went out to eat, and there was this one guy, like I felt that reptilian energy again. And I was like, where is this coming from? And as I look over, there's this guy who is staring me down like he wanted to kill me. And he literally was looking at me and he was like someone that wanted to murder you later. And I looked at him And I gave him the look, and I gave him a telepathic message. I said, "I know you're a reptilian. Keep going." And he held his plate of food, and he just kept going after. And I was like, that in my mind, I'm like, that's what I thought. Just keep going. But I was that was my first kind of my second experience with reptilian, so I was still kind of scared. I was just like, in my mind, I was like, keep going. And he did it again. He would look at me like he wanted to kill me because he's like, "Don't worry, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you." But I'm like, "Good luck." So that was the second time. The way he looked at me, I think it's funny after, but in the moment, I was like, "Stay away! Like you're not gonna be touching me or my family now." So it's very cool.
It seems like their best basis astrally or physically is the intimidation, is what I hear.
For sure, they really do like to intimidate you, using fear against you. And when you realize that they're real, and you start to realize more about them, they will not make moves at you anymore. If you understand your power and all that, they won't make moves at you anymore because it's not gonna work. They may try other ways. They might try and make a chess move and do chess moves to get to you, but at the end of the day, you're probably gonna realize. But overall, they will attack people around you if you become aware. So now they attack certain kids, especially like at the skate park. They go for kids. So that reptilian that attacked me actually didn't want me going to the skate park. So there was some sort of infiltration technique into the skate park. I'm actually going to make a video about this right after. I should take a note. Um, because the children are the future. So they didn't want me going to the skate park knowing that I'm like a guardian, that there's no way they could get in if I'm there. So after that, I did a whole shield on the skate park. So I got crystals and I buried them in the corners and one in the middle. And then I was gifted this one, which is very powerful. And I'm very connected to this one. It's like my best friend, these two. And I have some more. But after I did that, everybody at the skate park, I didn't even like I only a few people knew I did it. But everybody was coming to the skate park and they're like, "How come it feels so good here all of a sudden? Like this skate park just feels really nice." So confirmations, right? I was like, "Check, all right, we're good." And everybody's like, "It feels so amazing." And the skate park was flooded that day with people. And of course, I bring my music, so it's this whole place was really nice. And there'd be some people actually I noticed this is really weird, but I don't know if it's related to the shield, but I feel like it has to be. There were some people that were pulling up, like walking up to the skate park and wanted to walk in, but they walked to the skate park and they got to the entrance, and the one guy cussed. He was like, "Fuck," and then he walked away. So I was like, I took a little note.
Hmm.
That's very weird. It actually happened twice. It happened twice. Another guy came up and he walks up and he's like, "Damn," like he looked mad and then he walked away. I was like, "What?" So I don't know if that relates to the shield, but there was also another guy who drove by and was taking pictures of me. He legit walked up, he drove up and took pictures like this. And I looked and I went, "Hey, yo." And then he bolted off. So there weird things that I'm like, there has to be some sort of correlation. What are the odds that these people do this after I put the shield up? Like they couldn't enter or something.
Yeah, that's the one thing too with diving into all this is I don't believe in coincidences, and it happened twice. And then somebody came and videographed you and took pictures, and then you called him out, and he just booked.
That's
Yeah,
what I
there's
was
it
saying,
was the
bro.
shield for sure.
So I want all you guys to know that that energy stuff is for real, for real. And I have tons more stories that back up this and make people believe they're like, okay, whoa, like even my family now, like I'll briefly go into this, but my cousin passed away and he was shot. And at the hospital, I was doing a bunch of energetic work and protecting people and putting up shields and stuff. And I told the spirit, I said, "I know you're in the energetic realm. I got you, the family. Just get ready. Just prepare to adjust to the astral realm now." And I just got okay. And so I was protecting and doing whatever with the family. And then my aunt texts me or she calls me and goes, "What were you doing at the hospital?" And I said, "What do you mean?" Because I don't usually tell people the energetic work I do. So I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, we went to a soul reader, what are they called? Medium, And she said that your cousin wants to thank you for what you were doing at the hospital. And I said, "What?" And she said, "Tell
Wow.
me what you were doing." And I was like, "Oh no, I got to tell people because this is when I was first starting doing this stuff." So I told her what I was doing and she said, "That makes so much sense because I was just talking to our aunts about why everyone was oddly calm in the middle of everything going on." So more confirmations and coincidences that make you believe and are just so unbelievably coincidental that it's not a coincidence anymore. So
Hmm.
there's no way this stuff is fake now.
Sorry to hear about your cousin.
Yeah, it's all good, man. He's doing really well. Apparently doing a lot of work in the astral realm right now. He's visited me a few times. So in my mind, it's just like because I understand how this stuff works, I'm like, he's just not in the 3D anymore. Like he's in the astral. I could see him whenever I want. He's just not in the physical anymore. So that's another aspect that we have to help people understand as well with people that are passing away. Of course, you're gonna cry when someone dies, but when you understand that you could go and see them and they're not really gone, they're just not here physically, then it's easier for you.
Absolutely. It's such a beautiful way to put that.
Don't worry, we're gonna get a lot more into that soul stuff and soul understanding, and a lot of people are going to start to be understanding of what we are and who we are. So this was actually a great episode to talk about all of this because to have all of this in one like this episode I really like. So thank you. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how people now are experiencing things like this and understanding and how everybody's having experiences and I'm like, "Whoa, man." Like there's obviously what the Federation is telling me about the world changing. I'm like, "Okay, I'm seeing it in front of my eyes. I feel it now." So, I'm excited to see where we go as a human species.
Absolutely. You can definitely see that there's a cosmic shift going on. There's so much activity in the skies. There's so many more experiences. I keep hearing from like woodsmen and outdoorsmen that he keeps seeing cryptids. It's an amazing time that we're living in right now.
100%. And I don't know what the next step is. They never tell me what like the next step. They're just like, "Oh, get ready for this." And I'm like, "Okay." And then it happens and I'm like, "Oh, this is lit or this is fire." So they just give me little updates and like, "Oh, get ready." And then I'm like, "Y'all can't just tell me?" Like, y'all can't just tell me and they're like, "No, we can't do that." So, um with the future timelines that I see and that I'm allowed to see, I look at it and it makes me excited because just in the next 2 to 8 years, we're gonna be having, like, ET neighbors. Like, we're gonna have people from so many different star systems moving to Earth. Like, you're gonna have neighbors that are like, "Yeah, I'm from" like, there's gonna be a redskin person. They're gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm from, um, I'm from Sirius, planet B, and I do this, this, and that, whatever." And you'll be like, "Why'd you move here?" And they'll be like, "Because I actually wanted to live on Earth for a bit and see what it's like." And it's gonna be humans that move out of Earth and go to different star systems. Like, just seeing all these visions makes me so excited because this is what we're getting at. If we could do if the light workers, complete their missions and their assignments, if, humanity keeps going on the correct path it's supposed to, because the future's undetermined. It's like there's only possibilities. So if we keep aligned with that and what we wanna do, we're gonna be good. There's no way that we won't get to where we wanna get.
Absolutely.
Very excited for that, man.
Yes, that will be a very interesting time when well we won't have to worry about disclosure anymore because you can't deny it when you see it.
Mhm, yeah. Yeah, everything's coming out now, especially with the UFOs. That was just a start. That was really just the start of them telling people what the hell is going on. So they talk about, yeah, UFOs, we don't know what they are. Okay, for sure. They're like, it's not Russia, it's not Korea, it's not these people. We don't know what they are. That's just the start. And then they have the media now putting out different extraterrestrials and uh, putting the truth just right in front of our faces. Like if you guys have watched the show Inside Job on Netflix, Like that one just blatantly throws the truth at you. Like it's just throwing it in your face. Um, the UFO Declassified on Netflix as well. That one was really good. Like they're slowly putting this out because they're preparing humanity, because humanity is now getting ready spiritually and mentally for these different topics. So now that we're all getting, like, notice everybody's at least into crystals now. Like almost everybody, 85% of people that you see are into crystals. That's just the start. So they're like, okay, these things do have some sort of power. And now people are having spirit experiences because now the fourth dimension, we're shifting into fourth dimensional consciousness. So now we have all these spiritual experiences. We're not fifth dimensional yet, but we are fourth dimensional. So energy, astral projection, crystals, meditation, all that stuff is where everybody's getting at. So we're becoming more energetic beings. And then from there, we're going to evolve into more. So it's cool to see how the fourth dimension is meshing with the third dimension now for like Earth. And everybody's going to have experience. So if you're watching this and you're like, I haven't had an experience yet, you're going to have one really soon. And I promise you that, like, guaranteed. So don't think you're not going to have one.
Yes, we're all capable of having experiences and tapping into higher selves and astral projecting. Some of us
Mhm.
can see ghosts. It's just all finding your higher self.
Yes, and I'm having bad deja vu right now because I looked at the corner of the screen and I was like, "Whoa, I've seen this before." And that's actually one thing I want to mention quick is a lot of people are having deja vu. Now, if you have deja vu, that's just like it's like a checkpoint, so it lets you know you're on the right path. So I know a lot of people are like, "Well, I have this all the time. What does that mean?" Essentially, it just means that you're on the right path because you have experiences before. People are like, did I dream it? Did I see the future or what? But most of the time, like me, I understand that I've seen this before I decided to incarnate. So I actually see it like on the screen. Like there was a screen I was looking at before I incarnated. I remember looking at Earth and looking at this screen, and they were showing me my life and the checkpoints I'm going to have so that I know I'm on the right track. And they'll come as this feeling of deja vu, but they don't call it deja vu. They just call it like checkpoint. Like you'll just feel it intuitively that you've seen this before because you have, right? You've decided, okay, I'm gonna have this feeling at this point so that I know that I am on the correct path of my mission. So right when I just got deja vu right now, I'm like, okay, thank you. Like I was meant to be on this podcast. I was meant to be sitting here having this conversation, things like that. Like it's just letting me know you're doing good. You're doing good.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, for real, man. It's wild. But for anybody that is worried about, spiritual things happening to them or anything like that, just keep the most I can say for you is to keep learning about the universe and what is out there. Because the more you learn, the more it triggers different aspects to come up in your brain and you have different you'll get downloads. You will start getting downloads essentially. So get ready for that if you want to become more powerful spiritually and conscious wise. You have to start, you'll hear people saying meditate and all of that. Yes, meditate and sage and all of that, but that's just an aspect you will start doing naturally as you get more conscious. So, like, I thought, oh, let me meditate, let me sage. No, as you get more conscious and you learn and you get more in touch with the spirit realm, you'll realize you have to sage. Like now I'm like, okay, I gotta sage right now, or okay, I gotta meditate bad right now. So you'll be doing these things not because you're like, oh, let me do it, but you're doing it because you have to, or else you're gonna feel off. It's just like eating and sleeping essentially.
Just going through the reflexes. That's so awesome.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited to see how people evolve because everybody's has a slow evolution, especially you. Like I was seeing your timelines and I can see some of your past lives and stuff like that already. So I know a lot about you and it's really cool to see. And it's the same thing with a lot of people. Like they have all this evolution that they're doing that I could see, but I see like a percentage of, so I see the person they're meant to become, and then I see who they're going to become with the timeline they're on right now. and darker timelines. So I could see them and then they give me a percentage of where they're at. And sometimes they just need like one piece of information to correct their timeline. So sometimes I'll see someone in person and the Federation's like, that's the person, that's the person. It'll be a random stranger. And I'll say something to them or talk to them about something, and then I feel their timeline shift. And then I'm like, okay, my assignment's done. So after I'm done talking to them, I'm like, okay, bye. And then I leave knowing that their timeline went from this to this. And then I'm like, okay, I did what I was supposed to do.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, man. There's all of us could do this. So that's the fun part is that when I talk about this, everybody's like, how do you do that stuff? I used to watch so many YouTube videos like of people doing stuff like this. And I'm like, I want to get there too. But now that I'm here, I'm like, okay, it's not like how I thought it was going to be like. It's much different and requires a lot of trust in yourself because much of it is intuitive or clairvoyant, depending on how you receive information. So it all depends on who you are, but all of us can do this stuff. You just have to really focus and dedicate your time to it, and you will actually get to that point in time.
Very cool.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you. But yeah, yo, this was a whole hour. Whoa, we talked a lot.
Yeah.
Or I talked a lot.
Very cool. You have awesome information. I'm sure everybody out there is loving it.
Yeah.
But with that all being said, do you have anything to suggest with people who are just getting started, trying to, reach the astral realm, first getting into meditation?
Trust yourself. So trust yourself and look for confirmations. That's the biggest thing because you already know. Like it's like your heart and your soul already knows things, but your mind can't comprehend that the things that those things can. So your brain will only be able to comprehend these things through confirmation. So you feel like, okay, this person's a reptilian or this person is going through a rough time. Go up to the person and ask them. Don't ask them if they're reptilian, but be like, yo, are you having a rough time today? And they'll be like, yeah, how do you know? Confirmation. You're like, okay, what I felt was right. So whenever you are doing anything that's energetic or fourth dimensional, I should say, look for confirmations so that your mind can understand. Or else if you just blatantly believe, your mind will be like, bro, how do you know though? And then your mind's like, and then you're sitting there like, damn, yeah, how do I know? And then you realize you have to look for confirmation. So that's the biggest thing I say. And don't be learn to battle fear. That's the biggest thing I've always been told to tell people is you have to combat fear. And you have to realize that these dark beings and all of that aren't the enemy. The true enemy, like I'm being told all the time, and what I've been going by throughout all my past lives, is the remember who the true enemy is, and it is what they call the dark force. Now, there's a certain word for it. It starts with an A. I forget. Um, I totally forget, but essentially, it's the dark forces. So it's like a darker energy that is like its own being in a way, like it's taking over the galaxy and especially this planet. That is who the true enemy is. And I keep being told this by the Federation all the time. They're like, don't look at that human being and be like, yo, he's the enemy. Because he's not. He is just being taken over by this dark force. See, like because you could get really lost in the darkness really quick. So they're like, you have to help people not get lost in the dark, which has been a lot of my assignments lately because if they get lost in the dark, that's another, what is it called? Another soldier for the dark force. So it's just about removing these soldiers about the dark forces and remembering who the true enemy is. So fear is the true enemy. And if you are fearful, don't try and ignore that you're fearful, be courageous. Like do something even though you're scared, and that's actually a level above fear. So courage is just like a few above fear, which is means you're not fearful anymore. You're not in the vibration of fear. So combat it as much as you can and accept when you are in these lower states because they teach you a lot, but they also have um yeah, knowledge. It has knowledge for you and it makes you grow. So next thing you know, that fear that you battle with something, you're not scared of it anymore. You are you're stronger essentially. So that's what I have to say for you guys.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This was a lot of fun, and you actually gave me a lot to think about and a lot. I'm definitely gonna be watching that Thundercat show now. Now that you said that, and I'm gonna ask my mentor about it. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, there's so much. There's so much in the media that just drips down. I feel is like, hey, don't forget about this, and they do it intentionally.
Yeah, intentionally. That's the wild part, and a lot of it are the shows that are like for young kids or go way back. They're just depicting stories that are already here. Like, I was listening to a government worker, and he said that Star Wars is essentially just a documentary, but it's like a metaphorical documentary. So when it comes to like Planet Naboo and stuff like that, like all that stuff is true, but it's not true in the sense that they're fighting with lightsabers and stuff like that. It's just the stories are true metaphorically, which makes me want to watch them more now. And I've been kind of watching them
Right.
because they're so, it's like you're like, well, okay, the joint is real. And all of those stories essentially come from Orion, which is where most of my past lives were as well. So everything is aligning with everything right now. It's super cool.
That's so awesome.
Yes, man. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show,
No
and
problem.
I'm down to talk again.
Oh, I'd love to have you on again. And this is probably a great place to close it. We're about an hour in. And that being said, if any of you out there have an experience you'd like to share, please email me at lostthroughtherabbithole@gmail.com. You'll be able to find Cassius's info on the links below. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody. It's been awesome.
See you guys.